Yeah, this is a startup called Decart, an Israeli startup that does two things. They work on world models, literally AI models that try to understand the world, more rooted in real-world physics. They're trained on things like video data. It's beyond text. But the second thing that they do is have a software platform that makes chips better at running AI. Optimizing basically. And it seems like based on our reporting, that's the bit Anthropic's interested in. So it's a $6 billion deal we're reporting, citing sources. We don't know the structure of the deal. But in the context of what you just said, it would be Anthropic's biggest acquisition to date. And with an IPO right around the corner, it's interesting timing. But it kind of speaks to the operational or technical challenges that Anthropic still has.
Is this out of the ordinary, though, for Anthropic, though? Because they rarely make these big acquisitions. This is a big one, but they've been really spending heavily, computing power. They want to develop new products.
Yeah, I don't know. $6 billion doesn't seem very big to me when you think about the balance sheet. The way that I look at it is Anthropic's raised, even this year, north of $100 billion. And most of that sits on its balance sheet. Even the money it raised prior to this year probably still sits on its balance sheet. And we are seeing valuations of very specific niches that some of these startups occupy be at that level, be high. There is a lot of activity, and the frontier labs, the hyperscalers have used M&A to acquire those specialisms. In this case, Decart's is that software to optimize the stack and make the chip run better.
Ed, do we know anything more about a potential IPO of Anthropic, the timing thereof? We were mentioning SpaceX is now back above its IPO price. So presumably that bodes well for the tech IPO space, but anything on timing?
Yeah, the Bloomberg reporting is still that it's this fall. With respect, as a British person who's lived in the States for almost a decade, I still have no idea what the fall actually means. It seems an unspecified and infinite period of time, but that's what we've reported. I think, late September or early October is what we had previously reported. And so it's kind of full steam ahead. And you make a really interesting point, which is, I think I reported this at the time, right? Once the SpaceX prospectus hit, OpenAI and Anthropic had a good chance to read it and decide what to do. And, whatever their psychology was behind closed doors, ultimately they both filed confidentially with the SEC. And SpaceX, led the way in that respect.
Ed, I'm going to stick with SpaceX since you mentioned it. There was talk that actually Decart could be acquired by SpaceX, but Elon Musk said it's not true, fake news, not happening. So why would that company be of appeal to SpaceX?
Well, perfect summary. There were reports that SpaceX had wanted to offer similarly $6 billion. I think the report was that it was an all-stock proposal, and Elon Musk said that it was fake news, as you said. Same logic as Anthropic. With the greatest respect to Decart, and again, this is all Bloomberg's reporting, right? Anthropic has not confirmed this acquisition, nor Decart, but their work in world models is interesting. It's not unique. There are others working in world models. The property that folks are interested in is that software that just makes the chips better from an economics perspective and operationally at running AI models. And in a world where, the economics of leasing out compute capacity, running your own models on your own compute capacity is so important, and there is a supply constraint. There is not enough compute to meet the demand for running AI models. That would make that software particularly interesting, and it kind of goes back to your question on the valuation, right, and the $6 billion scale of the deal.
Ed, cost of using AI, the token costs. Users were seeing stories that CFOs and managers are saying, whoa, what are you using AI for? What am I paying for? What do we know about just the user cost experience?
Yeah, so there are two different parts to that. The cost of running a model is measured on $1 per million input tokens and $1 per million output tokens basis. And so when we get releases from, say, like Kimi K3 from China, one of the reasons that was such a big news story is that it was a high performance model, highly capable, but it was priced quite reasonably against how the absolute top US models were priced. A token spend is a budgeting issue. that basically technology companies around the country, some of them have got wrong. So if you're the CFO, you have to assign a budget, right? How much money are you going to allow your engineers to spend to run AI models? And because some of these companies have consumption basis arrangements with the frontier labs, a customer of Anthropic OpenAI is consumption based, they just burn through them. And then you have to go to the CFO and go, oh, actually, I said I'd spend 10, I spent 100, and then you're in trouble.